Welcome to Only Football.
What up? What up?
It's been a wild week 13. So much to talk about and discuss. The 49ers Super Bowl dreams may be gone. Joe Burrow owns Mahomes. The Packers get a one-game lead on the total Bears-Packers rivalry. We're going to just start with a Thursday night game that hopefully you watched and we live streamed it on Thursday, but not much to talk about. I mean, the Bills really
Yeah.
dominated for the most part of that game. It did seem like being in Foxborough, the Patriots playing really close with the Vikings. Mac Jones starts throwing the ball. Forget about all that. None of that mattered. The Patriots looked terrible,
Yeah.
and the Bills just, took care of business. So
They they were good, and like you said, if you watched our live stream, you saw us pretty much go through the entire game how the Bills were just able to do whatever they wanted to do against that Patriots defense, even though it's a good defense. But yeah, I mean, 24-10 kind of went how I expected it. I think you kind of were like, maybe the Patriots might put up a fight, but they ended up taking the dub there as far as the Bills.
yeah, absolutely. Not really much to discuss, but good if you're a Bills fan to see them kind of get back on that trajectory
Oh
of
yeah.
playing hopefully Super Bowl winning football. So we'll move on to a Steelers Falcons game. The Steelers at Falcons. I'm not gonna lie, this game didn't like there was too many matchups this week for me to
Yeah.
sit down and watch this game. But I do know the Steelers kind of had I think they had an early lead and they never lost it. And the Falcons lose by just a little bit, kind of the same way they lost last week against Washington, I believe.
Hmm.
Um, but man, it's just that division, anything is possible. Like we can't predict a winner. If Falcons win out, they could
Yeah.
very well be representing their division, but
Yeah.
they just can't seem to win these close games.
No, and give credit to Kenny Pickett and Najee. All these guys had really solid games, and specifically Pickett, 16 for 28, 190, and he had some scrambles, to keep drives alive, especially on third down. But like you said, the Falcons, unless they win out, I don't think they really have it in them because you look at what Mariota was doing. It seemed he was struggling all game that first half. Like you said, the Steelers got the lead and pretty much never let go because when they finally did kind of try to come back, it was a little too late. Mariota threw an interception on their last play of the game. And that I think Mariota's QB days are numbered, honestly.
I agree. He looked very bad. And I'm not trying to be mean. Like, I actually was a big guy that believed in the comeback. I was like, maybe he can do what Tannehill did, and I know we talked about it,
Yeah.
but he just doesn't seem to have the arm talent. So
Yeah.
he's kind of really solely relying on his legs, and he's maybe above average at best at scrambling. It seems like if he does stay in the NFL after the season, he'll be a backup for the rest of his career, which is fine. If I
Yeah.
could be a backup QB, I would.
I I would take that. I would take that 5 million a year to be a backup or
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know.
Um,
But yeah, it's just if it's not the running game working for the Falcons, there's nothing working for them. And again, Minka Fitzpatrick got the game-sealing interception, and Steelers have won 2 in a row. So watch out for my Steelers.
yeah, they might win the division. Are they mathematically eliminated yet? That'll
they
be funny to think about. What if
they
they're not?
are they are commonsensically eliminated. I don't
Oh,
think it.
where was that in the off season?
Yeah, yeah, I know. I made a
Uh,
bad pick. I made a bad take. I had a bad take. What do you want?
remember, whoever has the better picks, the other person has to do something naughty.
Oh, so naughty.
You remember? So
Oh
just
yeah.
if you're listening, give us some ideas. I was thinking about make him record a podcast in his boxers. I don't know
You're
why.
disgusting.
I
Pervert.
know. I don't know why.
Pervert. Pervert.
I'm really just stalling here. The next game on our list is a game I didn't really want to talk about, and you already
Yeah.
know what game it is.
Hmm.
It is the Denver Broncos losing a yet another embarrassing game. I mean, let me just say this. I'm going to let you have it for a little bit because I'm sure that you have an opinion, as does most of the world when they saw what happened. But
Yeah.
did you know since 1993, teams that have kept their opponent under 10 points, forced 2 turnovers, and the other team didn't have any turnovers, which in this example is the Ravens,
Mm-hmm.
those teams are 206-0 since 1993.
Until today.
Which this is
That's
why,
insane.
yeah, and this is why I say, like, no, it actually, it really hurts, because it's not like they're just playing like ugly football. I mean, they are on offense, but the games are so competitive, it keeps drawing you in. You keep
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah.
And it was this feeling when they were going on that last drive, 3-9, and they went for it on fourth down with like 2 minutes and 13 seconds about. They went for
Mm-hmm.
it. They were on their like 17-yard line.
Yeah.
And if they don't get it right there, even if Denver can't move the ball, which we automatically assume we don't, we can kick a
Mm-hmm.
field goal and make it a 2 possession game.
Yeah.
So mind you, Baltimore had all 3 timeouts. So I was like, why are they going for it here? Why not punt it? You know, the offense is going to punt it right back.
Yeah.
And you know, because if you don't get it, the game's essentially over unless you block a field goal. So they go for it. They get it. They would go on a 93-yard drive that included
Mm-hmm.
2 fourth down conversions. Um, and they did this with a backup quarterback.
Yep.
And I just want to say, though, that I
Rough.
believe Tyler Humphrey, I believe his
Huntley.
name is Huntley. I
Yep.
think he's the best backup quarterback in the NFL. I've been high on him since I saw him come in and look exactly like Lamar Jackson. He's very talented. And I think the Ravens will just be fine until Lamar wasn't season ending or anything, but he'll be out a couple weeks. And just like last week, Huntley will just kind of take that spot and roll with it. But I mean, the Broncos, they're just finding like creative ways to lose, and they're
Mm-hmm.
actually breaking records in a really sad way. It's like,
A very sad way.
because that, you know what that stat says? It says that nobody has ever performed the way you guys are performing on defense and have lost. It's never happened. You guys are in new, like, we're crossing into new territory with how bad this offense is. And the truth is we had Drew Lock on our team, we would have more wins. I mean, you hold a team to 3
Mm-hmm.
points with 1
Mm-hmm.
minute left in the game, and your offense can't find a way to win that. Justin Simmons has 2 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, just defensively, they didn't look any better with Lamar. So you can't even say like, oh, well, Lamar wasn't in the game. They shut Lamar down. I mean, he had like 1 first down before he exited the game. So this defense is playing at a superb level. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, once that drive started, I feel like every Bronco fan kind of already knew what to expect, and that's really sad because we actually know at the end of the games that we'll find a way to lose, and we should
Yep.
be
Yep.
having an identity of finding ways to win. That's not the case. We're like, oh, they got 3 timeouts, 1 minute left, and if they score, they win, and you just kind of hang your head before it even
Yeah.
happens. And that is I don't know. I've never had a year like this. This is the most unique, disgusting year of football I've ever watched, and I won't stop watching it either because it's
You're
competitive.
you're just a glutton for punishment, man, at this point. And I feel you. I'm a Bears fan. I get it as well. But this was this was this is just like you said, it's a creative way for the Broncos to lose this. They are up 9-3 in the fourth quarter, unable to score anymore, pretty much controlling it against a backup quarterback for the Ravens. And this is another wasted effort by the defense, man. Like you said, Justin Simmons, two interceptions. You hold them to 10 points, and any other NFL team, probably minus the Bears and maybe the Texans, would count this as a win if you have this Denver Broncos defense. It's not even fair how good they are, because if you gave this defense and what they've done over the season to like the Bills or to the Eagles or to the Vikings, they would be the number one team in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
Bar none, number one in the entire NFL.
no
And
doubt.
they would be Super Bowl like favorites from like week 5. They'd be Super Bowl favorites with what this defense done. I don't know what I said it last week. I think this offense is going to be a lot better next year if they keep Hackett and Russ is going to stay. I'm positive. But if they keep Hackett another offseason, I think this offense will be better. But right now it's just a struggling team, and it sucks
I
to be a fan.
I I just I'll respond to that and then we'll move on. But I know if you didn't catch us on Thursday night, we talked a little bit about Hackett, and
Mm-hmm.
although everything you say, of course, I want to agree with it because I mean, who doesn't want to agree when someone's predicting your team to be a lot better and contend for the playoffs, right? But
Yeah.
the reality is, I don't know. There's certain things in life where you don't get second chances, and I'm a big
Mm-hmm.
second chance guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure everyone has those lines that if you cross, then it's like you don't get a second chance with that. That's too
Yeah.
much. And it kind of feels like Nathaniel Hackett has crossed that line by embarrassing losses to the Panthers. Um, those two interceptions resulted in like 6 plays, 9 yards, and 3 points. And it was
Yeah.
only 3 points because it happened the Broncos didn't enter the red zone Sunday.
They didn't. They did not.
So I mean, you talk about bringing a guy back. I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm.
When you display something this terrible, and I
Mm-hmm.
get the injuries, I get all of that,
Mm-hmm.
but you see what Aaron Rodgers is doing with a new offensive coordinator and no Devontae Adams. I mean, it struggled a lot, but we expected a struggle, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not just struggling, like we're doing something we're 32 and everything, and we're doing something that's kind of unprecedented in the NFL. And
Yeah.
that's those stats I told you, that's how you know that this is a historically bad offense.
Yeah.
And Nathaniel Hackett is an offensive coordinator. That's my issue is
Mm-hmm.
that he came here because he was supposed to, if he did only one thing, it would be improve the offense. That's the worst thing. So we'll move on from that game. Our next game, I'll let you take the floor in this one. The
Yep.
Packers, Bears, I believe before the start, it was like 67 and 67 was the head to head overall. And now Green Bay, obviously 67 or 68,
Or
67,
no,
something.
I think they own the all-time record against the Bears. What we were tied in, the Bears and the Packers, was the all-time wins record in the NFL. So
Oh, really?
so the Packers now have the most all-time wins in the NFL, and what a win it was, man. If you guys were tuning into Big League Chicago earlier, you saw us talk about this game, and it was bad. It was bad. It's Justin Fields, came back in this game, and I didn't want him to. I said, if he doesn't have to, if he's got a lingering shoulder issue, don't bring him in. He felt good enough to come in this game, and I think if he didn't, the score would be a lot worse than it was. So 28-19, Packers win.
Oh,
The
actually, real quick correction. The Bears edged the Packers by 1 win.
mhm.
The overall record is 783 and 782.
Oh, okay.
So the Bears have a 1 win lead on that, which
That's
as a Bears
insane.
fan, I
That's
mean,
insane.
this is a big deal. Look how even that is, man.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're even at 20 and 20, okay. 783 to 782. And the last 2 decades have been just domination. Imagine how
By
good
the
the Bears
Packers.
must have been in the
I'm saying,
70s and
man,
80s.
the Bears were very, very good before, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers decided to be Hall of Famers for the Packers. So
Sorry for
um
the interruption, but I thought you
yeah,
should know
no,
that.
that's fine. Interrupting me with just more sadness. So the Bears offense got going pretty early on. Cairo Santos made 2 field goals. Justin Fields rushed for a touchdown. Montgomery rushed for a touchdown. There was a lot of good offense. Going into the half, we were leading 16-10, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just gonna double check my notes here to make sure that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 16-10 Bears going into the third. The Bears went up in the third quarter because of Santos field goal and made it 19-10 Bears. Then we get into the fourth quarter and the Bears just literally like shoot themselves in the foot. Time after time after time, they let up a Dillon touchdown, they let up a field goal, and then they let up what was basically the last nail in the coffin for the game, a Christian Watson 46-yard rushing touchdown. On top of that, they made a 2-point conversion. So the Bears defense got absolutely crushed in the fourth quarter. And I got to give credit, right? Like I got to give credit to Aaron Rodgers.
Wow, that's
He
big of you.
owns that
That's
is
big of you.
that credit to me. Credit to me. Look, I'm patting myself on the back for that. He did really well in that fourth quarter. He knew exactly what this game was. He knows what this rivalry is. He goes into Soldier Field. He says it's like a second home to him. Like just pouring it on, right? But so that happens. The Bears defense just completely shit the bed. But I want to give Getsy a shout out for the conservative play calling that he was doing in the third and fourth quarter that led to the Bears 3 points in the second half. It was bad. It was terrible. Justin Fields was throwing bombs to N'Keal Harry, to Equinemius St. Brown. He had a few good throws to Chase Claypool. But when it came down to the red zone, it's like Getsy froze. Getsy was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do here. Let's pitch it to the left. Let's run the ball up the middle. Let's try to do this. Short passes to dumping off to Montgomery. Bad play calling all around on first and second down. And then obviously, especially on third, led to only 3 points in the second half. The defense, I don't know what happened. You hold the Packers to 10 points in 3 quarters, and then you just let them explode in the fourth. What I think was the worst part is through 3 quarters, everyone knew that the Bears pass rush is terrible. They couldn't get to Rodgers to save their own lives. But then you start throwing in some blitzes in the fourth quarter, and that just frees guys up. That's when he's able to make those plays. That's when he's able to get these scores. That's when you have Watson doing an end around and able to score from 50 yards out. It was so bad, man. It was the defensive play calling in the fourth quarter was terrible. It should not have gone that way. If you're holding him to 10 points in 3 quarters, and that's kind of where I was at. I was mad. I wanted to win against the Packers, but one thing Eric said on Big League Chicago, and I think I'm going to agree with him, is that's the last time Aaron Rodgers wins a game in Chicago. Starting
Well, of
next year,
course
it
you're going to
starts to
agree with
change.
that.
Absolutely.
That's not like profound. You have a rising new quarterback.
That's 8 in a row he's won, though. Even when the Bears were good in 2018. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, he definitely has your number. But to say that that's the last time, I mean, you're saying that next year, if he's a Packer, which we're assuming he will be, the one game will be a loss. So you're saying like he'll go 0-1 next year. It's not a big, huge bold take.
Not an extension.
Yeah,
He's
but
got
do you
3
think
more years.
I think he's got one. I think he's got one. Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess that's where I thought, but okay. Well, let me ask you this, because you think about the Atlanta Super Bowl where they're winning 28-3. They got a 25-point lead, and then they get super conservative, and the Patriots come back. Well, I always wonder. I understand be conservative to kill the clock, but at the same time, it's like why stop doing what's working? Like
Exactly.
you have a lead. And as soon as the Packers show any type of putting a leg in the fight, if you will, why not be like, okay, let's keep them at an arm distance and go back to what gave us a 19-6 lead, I believe, right? 19-6.
19-10.
19-10.
Put your foot on their throat, man. Like
exactly.
Score points.
And especially because this rival, I mean, the Bears don't want to beat the Packers at home. They want to destroy the Packers at home. They want a morale boost. And I mean, that was your shot. There's not going to be another game this year that would have boosted the morale. Even if you blow everybody up for the rest of the year. That was the game, and they had the shot. When I saw the score at halftime, there was no doubt in my mind that the Bears were going to win. And the Packers ended up coming back into that game. I will say it seems like Dobb, he's pretty decent, but Watson, that's like the clear number one.
7
And
touchdowns in 4 games is ridiculous.
yeah, and this is kind of they're playing together for 1 year now. Here we are going into week 14,
Mhm.
and it feels like they have that guy finally. And if Rodgers would have stuck around in the offseason, maybe it wouldn't have had to take 14 weeks for him to
Yeah.
find that guy and that connection. But you know, Rodgers wants to do other things in the offseason, and whatever. I will say
Ayahuasca.
there. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But
Mhm.
um, it seems like the Packers kind of have a little bit of hope with the NFC being kind of weak because, like
Yeah.
you said, we're expecting the Commanders to kind of fall out and the Giants to fall out. The problem is the Commanders are there's 6 teams on a bye week next week, including the Bears and
Oh,
Packers
wow.
and the Commanders. So not a lot is going to be settled next week because of
Mhm.
the bye week. And then the Commanders go on to play the Giants again and then the Browns. Those seem like 2 winnable games.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and it might be too little, too late for the Packers. That's all
I
I'm
think so.
saying.
I think so
Um,
too.
but we'll see. Stranger
Yeah.
things have happened, and if there was a team to squeak in, it would be the Packers. I said that before, and I'll stand by that. They could be like a 2005 New York Giants that make it in at 9-7
Yeah.
or whatever their record was. But yeah, sorry about that, man. I saw that game and I just saw the score continue to adjust, and I was like, "Oh my god, you must
You're
be
like, "Oh,
so."
no. Oh, no."
Talk about a highs and a low. You could
Yeah.
say your highs and lows were in the same game.
Mhm.
Um, but we can move on from that unless you have anything else to say about that game.
Now let's move on to the Jags at the Lions.
Yeah, this I believe you. Let me see who you went with. Did you?
I
Oh,
went with the Lions.
you went with the Lions. I went with the Lions. Did you
Yeah.
know that the Lions right now
Mhm.
are about equal to Cincinnati?
Really?
If you look at where their offense is ranked, I believe it's like 13 right now because they had a couple bad weeks, and then their defense is ranked, I believe, 15.
Mhm.
There, Cincinnati is right there, like the equivalent of how the Lions are right now. But that all kind of gets lost on us, probably because the Lions have a history of losing. But let me challenge you: if the
Mhm.
Detroit Lions were wearing Bengals jerseys and their last names on their jerseys, would you know the difference right now?
Probably not. Not with the way their offense is going.
Yes. And
Mhm.
man, I know that we brought in your buddy that came on the podcast, big Lions fan. He must
Alex.
be Yeah, he must be feeling really, really good about this Lions team who keep finding ways to win.
Mhm.
And I didn't understand when the game was released, the Lions were underdogs at home by 7 points because
Yeah.
the Jaguars beat up on a
The
Ravens team playing bad.
yeah.
Let's call it what it is. I knew that they weren't gonna come in to Ford Field and give the Lions an ass whipping. The Lions are playing good football right now,
Yep.
and it's kind of weird that they've been doing it for 5 weeks, and it still seems like people are kind of behind the curve on this. Like they're not up to speed on who the Lions are. I don't know if
Mhm.
just because uh, you know they've been bad for so long, we don't give credit when it's due.
I think that's what it is.
I think that might be what it is. But man, I'm impressed with what I'm seeing from the Lions. Like they will lose, they'll break your heart, but it
Mhm.
seems like this is a team that makes up for it, right? Like,
Yeah, and this game 40-14 they won. They did not punt one single time.
wow.
All 9 offensive drives from the Lions came away with points, whether it was a touchdown or a field goal. Goff had 2 touchdowns. St. Brown had 2 touchdowns. Swift and Williams each had a touchdown. The Jags secondary was lost all day. Their defense was lost all day. Lawrence had a tough day at the office. He got sacked. He went out in the first half, after the first half, after a sack. He came back in the second half and looked fine, but I mean, something like that, it's just it can have an effect on you. And you got multiple drops from the receivers. Etienne fumbled. There's no consistency from the Jags and Lawrence. And honestly, for as good as the Lions offense has been, they're one of the worst defenses in the league. To only be able to score 14 against them is actually kind of like, that's kind of crazy. But it's also the Jags. They had a good game against the Ravens. They thought they were going to come into Detroit with a high off that, and that was not the case. They just could not get anything going offensively all day.
The Lions have got their defense together in the last 5 weeks. Remember, they forced like 2 turnovers a game going into Buffalo in their last on their 3-game win streak. Like, their
Mhm.
defense is a totally different defense right now
Yeah,
than
I think
it
just
was in the
scoring
beginning.
wise, teams are able to score on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it is usually high scoring games, but
Hmm.
ever since they started finding ways to take the ball away, like what they gave up 28 to Buffalo, they gave up
Hmm.
18 to the Giants, they gave up 30 to the Bears. So yeah,
Yeah,
they do kind of tend to, but look, then 9 to the Packers, like you don't know what you're going to get with this
they
team.
got their games. Yeah, they've got their games for sure. For
Then
sure.
they got shut out, against the Patriots. It's just
Yeah.
this is a total wild card. Like if you
Hmm.
had the Uno deck of cards and you were going to lay that wild card, that name a bigger wild card this year than the Lions. They could beat Buffalo or
Yeah.
they could get their ass kicked to a Patriots team and get
Yeah.
shut out. You
And
just don't.
it's insane. It's insane what they're doing. And yeah, they looked so good against the Jaguars. They look so good.
Yeah.
Um
The last thing I have about this game is I do feel that Jared Goff won the job in 23. Um,
oh.
which there was kind of quite we
Mm,
were talking about that, like, do they go get a better quarterback? Like, what if one of the top 5 guys is on the board and it goes to
yeah.
them? Because a lot of the people picking in the top 5 don't need a quarterback.
Well, they've
Um,
also got the Rams pick, and the Rams are looking like straight trash this year. So they're gonna have a top 5 pick, it's looking like.
yeah, no, totally. And it just I didn't realize until kind of this game, I was like, you know what? There's been enough times this year that I've looked at
Hmm.
the score and they've been in the 40s and high 30s.
Yeah.
You don't move off quarterbacks that do that, even if they're not a household name. That's why Geno Smith is talking about a long-term contract right now. It's not because he's
Yeah.
a household name. It's because when it's not broke, don't fix it. That's basically what I'm saying here.
I guess I could agree with that. I don't know. I still think they draft the quarterback just because I don't really think Jared Goff is the answer. But they
Like
should draft
long-term
one.
answer.
Yeah, not the long-term answer, but you draft a guy who's coming in hot, from college. You sit him for a year or whatever, learns
They'll
under Goff, looks good.
they'll probably draft CJ Stroud, but
There you
we'll
go.
get into mock drafts later. The
Yeah.
Bears are definitely gonna get a really good defensive plug. They're gonna be on the board with some nasty talent.
Oh yeah, and again, we talked about that too, and we don't know what way Poles is going to go, but we'll see. Let's talk about the the team with the number 1 pick, the Texans taking on the Browns. The Browns. This was the return of Deshaun Watson in Houston, and like you said, he was going to look like a guy who hadn't played in 2 years. That's exactly what he looked like. 12 for 22, 131 yards, a lot of passes in the dirt to his wide receivers, a lot of visible frustration from his wide receivers. Like, not like he was just throwing catchable, not really catchable balls. Um, and I think it should be expected, right? Like you can have a good practice, but when it comes to game speed, I'm positive that's very different. And so I guess Watson was just suffering from that. Just the game speed, it's a little different. And again, 2 years not playing, pretty much like it should be noted. So it's gonna take some time for him and Stefanski to really kind of get in tune with each other. But Chubb also was not, the rushing game in general was just not good. This game, the Browns only the Browns only scored 6 points on the offense. Everything else was special teams and defense. You had Pope, Peoples Pope, whatever it was, score a punt return touchdown. You had 2 defensive touchdowns. One was a fumble recovery, and I think the other one was a interception. The Texans just look bad. The Texans look bad. They had their uh the the only thing the Texans have to look forward to is the draft and Damian Pierce, because Damian Pierce looked really good.
Yeah, and when we did our what was it, the spread game of the week, I chose this
Yeah.
game because it said Cleveland by 7. And
Mm-hmm.
if you like took them by 7, I don't want you to be mad at me because like you got a pick six and you got the
Yeah.
punt return for a touchdown. Not only should this game been within 7, the Texans probably should have won 13-14. I mean, that's how bad this Browns team played, and they totally got
Mm-hmm.
bailed out. Deshaun Watson didn't come in and light anybody up. I
Nope.
mean, this is what was expected, and it's a bummer that that it didn't actually translate on the scoreboard. Like if you only saw the scoreboard, you'd be like, "Oh, 27, you almost put up 30 points. He must have had a good
Yeah.
game." He played pretty bad, and if you didn't see the game, you watched the highlights. They I mean, I don't know if it's I think it's a combination, the emotions, first game back. Um Sometimes people don't even believe that they deserve to be in the position they're in, and it
Mm-hmm.
translates on the field. I mean, we'll see. We'll be following, this for the rest of the season, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious to see if Deshaun Watson does go back into any kind of form that looks somewhat like what we saw last time he's on the field. Because
Yeah.
I'm not completely convinced he will. I mean, some people don't bounce back from things this serious, so we'll follow that.
Not
Um,
after such a long time, too.
Exactly. I mean, Michael Vick was able to do it
Mm-hmm.
after I think 2 years in jail.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody is Michael Vick. Michael Vick is
Yep.
Michael Vick. So we'll see about that. Our next game was a game that you thought you weren't really quite sure about, right? This was your don't
Yeah.
touch it, I believe.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
the Jets going into Minnesota and playing the Vikings. The Jets
Mm-hmm.
defense was spot on.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have told me that they're going to keep Delvin Cook with a modest amount of rushing yards, and they're going to
Justin
keep
Jefferson.
keep Justin Jefferson locked down, but once again, Minnesota finds different ways to get the job done, and they got the victory, and I expected that because
Yep.
you're playing with James White, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And then
And
Mike White.
Mike White. We don't do names. Never have, never will.
Never have, never will.
But you're playing with this guy that just had probably a career game, could
Mm-hmm.
potentially be the best game he ever has for the rest of his career for all we know.
Yep.
And you're expecting him to repeat the performance against the one of the top seeds in the NFC on the road. That's a tall order. Like I don't think anybody could have
No
gotten
one.
that job done. I mean, that would have been hard for
Yeah.
um, Josh Allen, as we saw
Mm-hmm.
earlier in the year. Well, actually, Minnesota was in Buffalo for that, but you get the point. Tough
Mm-hmm.
team, big, tall order. But you were you surprised? Because obviously this is your don't touch it. So you see the results. What are you thinking?
I mean, this was a close game up until the end. It really was. And the Vikings get to 10 wins, and they get this win because their defense did just enough towards the end to really get that win. Now, I don't want to discredit Mike White because he had 370 yards on 57 attempts.
57.
50
That's a shit ton.
That's a ton, man. Like you got Wilson, Zach Wilson sitting there like, I don't think I've ever thrown the ball 40 times in a game. But you got Mike White in his second game this season starting, throwing it 57 times. The defense was able to get some lucky bounces. Barrios, I caught that touchdown, but I think when he was trying to really corral it, he kind of hit it with his right hand. It hit the field, so it wasn't a touchdown. So they had some lucky bounces, but the defense did still do enough because right after that they got an interception to really seal the win.
Yeah.
And in the process, Mike White is building really good chemistry with Garrett Wilson, but the Vikings the offense, kind of like you said with the Jets defense, it was contained, but it could not be stopped. It was not stopped. And then that's how the Vikings ended up at 10 wins and a 27-22 win against the Jets.
Yeah, and I almost feel like going into Minnesota, the best bet is probably not to throw 57 times, but that we could talk about
Yeah.
that being a game plan issue. It's not White's fault that they did that, but that was
Yeah.
as they say, that is not the move. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
My don't touch of the game happens to be right after yours. It was the Commanders at Giants. Two people that don't know how to win or lose a game end up
Yeah.
in a tie. The single-handedly worst rule in and in the NFL currently. I have no idea why this is a thing. There has to be
Yeah.
some kind of money, revenue, commercial. It has to be money. I don't know how
Yeah.
this still exists in our day and age. Like what a tie. You just after what 90 minutes or 70 minutes of football, you leave people wanting more. I just don't get it. Did you watch the tie?
I unfortunately did watch the tie. I had it on Red Zone. This was this was a game where you kind of saw the Giants offense finally come alive. You know, you had a rushing touchdown from Barkley, a passing touchdown from Jones. Jones was actually running the ball pretty well, and the Commanders, you know, with Heineke, you know, he was getting sacked and he was not doing great, but he was doing enough too during this game. I mean, you saw that pass to Jahan Dotson, 28 yards for a touchdown across the middle to finally get them into OT.
Yeah.
But then they get into OT, and like you said, like it's almost like, what are we doing? Because they went back and forth. I mean, the in 4 quarters you scored 20 points each. What did you expect in OT? Did you expect 2 touchdowns in 10 minutes? Like, there's no way. Or at least
A
did
field
what did
goal at some point is what I
something, right?
expected.
Yeah, I think so too. But I guess these guys were playing for touchdowns or something. I think eventually the Giants looked like they were marching, but the Commanders' defense, again, without Young, or what's it? Yeah, Chase Young, right?
Yeah.
Without Chase Young in the lineup, you saw him, you know, on the sidelines looking. They came up short. They had what was it? Again, Gano attempted a
56 yard, I think.
58-yard field goal, and he missed it. So, I mean, this was kind of like you said, like what? How am I supposed to feel? How are the Commanders? How are the Giants supposed to feel if they're a tie? Are the Giants and their offense back to scoring? Are they back to being like a really good NFC East team? Are the Commanders going to make
No.
The playoffs? Like, what's going on here with this tie?
The
It's bad.
the
It's
the
bad.
Giants, their stock is way low, and we talked about it. They're going to start stacking losses. That's what we said.
Yeah.
And the Commanders got a couple of cheap wins. And yeah, I as a person that went through a Tim Tebow era, I know
Yeah.
that riding on an emotional high with a player, it could even get you to win a wild card game, but it can only get you so far. And
Mm,
the way that they've been winning these games, I mean, the Commanders could look in a mirror and see the Giants.
yeah.
And I really don't want to see either of these two teams go into the playoffs because I like to see really good football. I don't see this Commanders team going into Philly and winning. And I don't see the Giants going
No,
into Minnesota and getting a win. Like I'd rather see the Packers go into Minnesota and watch that because
I hate you.
I think there would be a better chance of a win. But here we are with two teams that are both in the playoffs,
Mm.
and it's almost like I feel like such a hater, man. I'm like sitting here rooting for them to fail so I can watch better football in January. Um,
True. True.
but that's just how I feel about these guys. So we'll
Mm.
see. I thought maybe one of them would separate from the other after this week. Apparently, that's
Not
not going to
happening.
happen. They're just going to keep pushing forward with the ties.
Uh,
And who tied earlier this season? There was it the
the Colts and the
Steelers? No, no,
no,
no,
the
no.
Colts and Texans.
Colts and Texans. Yeah, they
Yeah.
tied week 1. So
Yep.
every time it happens a couple times a year, maybe only once a year most seasons, but it is the most annoying thing as a fan of the game to see a tie. You're like, dude,
Yeah.
this is such an aggressive physical sport, and there's not going to be a winner.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like so
even
ironic to
even
the sport.
hockey has like the shootouts or
Shootout,
whatever at
yeah.
the end. So
I
I
think
don't know,
after
man.
the first overtime period, they should move to college overtime rules and just do that at the 20-yard line. So there has
Yeah,
to be a winner.
there has to be a
Um,
winner. Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. The next game was Titans Eagles. Thought it'd be a close game. Titans play really good on the road. They got a good
Yep.
running team. Philly kind of they seem good, but they also seem like they could struggle with a really challenging team.
Oh yeah.
No way, man. They just Jalen Hurts. It seems like they had some kind of bye week reset almost. They
Yeah.
seemed way better than Tennessee. Um, Tennessee, another team that's going to go into the playoffs that is not going to do anything in the
Yeah.
playoffs. So whatever, there's always a couple, but I think Philly really separated themselves because if you want to, if you want people to see you in a good light, you have to beat the bad teams, right? And you have to do
Yeah.
it in a decidedly way, kind of how Dallas won last night. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But if you really want people to know you're for real, you beat the shit out of the teams you're supposed to be competitive with,
Yeah.
and that's what that win was. That was like
Mhm.
a, hey, we're up here. I don't know
Mhm.
where you guys have Tennessee, but we are not on the same level as Tennessee. We're better than them. And it's not even close. And I don't know. Do you think Tennessee had a bad game? Is this really facts?
I Tennessee had a bad game, and
Okay.
I know they had a bad game because Henry only had 30 yards and Tannehill was pressured all game. The offensive line for Tennessee against the super good front four like the Eagles have is just bad. And I think I may be mistaken, but I think the Titans are missing a starter on the offensive line. I may be mistaken. They look.
Philly's missing a
Oh,
defense,
it's Philly.
their
Okay.
best defensive player. So
No, no,
imagine how
no. He
good
actually came back. The defensive lineman, the rookie, he
Jordan.
played Jordan. Yes, he came back for a few plays. He didn't play that. He didn't play the entire game, but he was part of the reason that Tennessee was looking bad and that Henry was only 30 yards.
Okay.
Look, the Tennessee is probably going to make the playoffs. They could probably lose the rest of their games and still win the division and make the playoffs because nobody else in that AFC South is going to come out. What I will say, AJ Brown had a stupid game. He had 8 catches, 119 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Insane. He was wide open for this for I think his first or second touchdown catch. There was nobody within 20 yards of him. And he just caught the ball and ran backwards into the end zone. That's how you know you are so good. And yet the Titans gave him up to Philly. And this was basically a revenge game for him. You know who else was like, wow, this sucks seeing AJ Brown be so good on another team?
Who?
Vrabel, head coach for the
Oh
Titans,
yeah.
Vrabel. He was there was a moment when they traded him during the draft where a camera panned to him and he just was disappointed. He's like, you're going to get rid of my best receiver. Now, in turn, they did get Traylon Burks, who actually got hurt catching his first touchdown of the season or of the game. I forget which one it is.
Yeah, he's been
Um,
really good. He's been like the last 3 games getting like 10 targets.
yeah, he's been very good the last few games for the Titans and Tannehill. But like you gave up AJ Brown, who's been doing like amazing this year, for a chance at a rookie who Burks again. He's been doing really well, but the Titans just look so bad, dude. The Eagles, like you said, they came in, they beat the absolute shit out of the Titans. Like they made them look terrible. That's what the Eagles are supposed to do. That's what the Eagles are supposed to do when you're expected to go to the Super Bowl, and that's exactly what they did. So that's what happened, man. It's just the Titans look bad in this game. They're a former number 1 seed last year. And like you said, I
Yeah.
don't think they've touched 30 points this year, right?
Yeah, definitely offense not really impressive. And as you mentioned though, AJ Brown seeming like really important to that Titans offense at this point in the year, and
Yeah.
then to really just rub your face in it, he
Mhm.
backs up into the end zone wide open. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, definitely some Titan fans going to bed a little angry after that. A spread. Our next game is Seahawks at Rams, which was a spread. I believe if I didn't mention it here, I told a coworker because they had the Seahawks winning by like 8 points, and I was like, look,
Really?
there's no Sean McVay team that's gonna roll over. Like it's just they're gonna be competitive,
Mm.
but they're gonna be competitive and most likely lose.
Yep.
They said in the beginning of the year or the beginning of the week that they were gonna go with um the mobile quarterback. I'm blanking on his name right now. He
Well, they
made
went
his
with Wolford.
yeah, but they ended up going with Wilford. So I don't know what switched. Um,
Oh, you said they were going to go with the other guy. Okay, okay.
yeah, they were gonna
Yeah.
go with the other guy, and then they switched it, and then I was actually really surprised. Oh, Perkins. It was like
Perkins, Bryce
Perkins,
Perkins.
Bryce Perkins. Yeah. So they end up not going with Bryce Perkins,
Mm.
and they go what was his name again?
Wolford, John Wolford.
They go with John Wolford, and they looked pretty good. I mean, he seemed really comfortable in the pocket. Cam
Yep.
Akers finally got rolling. Look, I work with a diehard Rams fan, and I told him, as sure as I've ever been about any player, Cam Akers is that guy. Like
Mhm.
Cam Akers is a baller. I watched him through Florida State. It was just like Delvin Cook. No matter who they played, he was the best guy in the field. Give him the ball,
Yeah.
and he'll just score a touchdown.
He did
And
well.
he did really well with
Yeah.
a bad O line. I mean,
Yeah.
the Rams, never recovered from the retirement and the free agent market, but
Yeah.
they're going to be a competitive team. In Seattle, just a little bit better, a lot more healthy, able to squeak it out at the end. But I mean, I'm not like impressed by Seattle's ability to beat a depleted Rams team that's injury. But
And to almost lose to them too.
and almost lose to them.
Yeah.
But now we'll get to the 49ers game. But now the division gets uh
Spicy.
a little spicy. What did you take from the game? Did you think the Seahawks, like, I mean, what do you?
I I thought the Seahawks did well starting off. Uh I think Geno Smith led with touchdown drives of 80. It was 80 and 91 yards
That's
on their
pretty
first three
good.
possessions. And then he was like fumbling the ball. He got sacked and he threw an interception a couple of drives later. So it was like, okay, is this Rams defense actually decent right now? Like, and again, it's a Seahawks team that has been kind of questionable a little bit, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's not like they've been dominant. It's not like they've been like the Eagles or anything. They've looked good. Don't get me wrong, but they've been in all the other teams they've played have mostly been in the games with the Seahawks. But then the Rams led with about 4 minutes remaining. Geno led another 70-yard touchdown drive, threw it to DK for a touchdown, and you know the Rams defense just couldn't hold at the end. That was really it. It's not. I don't think it says anything about either team. I think it's like the Seahawks squeaked out another win, like you said, and the Rams going down fighting. This was a Bobby Wagner revenge game in a sense. He was all over the field this game, all
yeah,
over
he
the
had a
field.
sack.
A sack. I think he had 2 sacks actually. And he was just all over the field, double-digit tackles. He was doing really well. Unfortunately, like they just couldn't hold him at the end. Geno had a fourth quarter touchdown game-winning drive, and that's kind of all she wrote there for that. Nothing really to take away from either of these guys.
Yeah, that's how I felt. But I also felt Kenneth Walker leaving in the first quarter with an injury, not returning in
Yeah.
the game. You kind of you saw Kenneth Walker is an important role player on that team. He's a legitimate
Mm-hmm.
weapon that when he's not on the field, the Seahawks don't look as good. And I think they can't really afford to lose guys like that when I really feel like this Seahawks team, for Geno Smith to play at the level he's playing, you really need all of your weapons to be there, because the reason his QBR is so
Yeah.
high is because one of the playmakers is in space. And if you start losing your playmakers and ask Geno to start being more like Patrick Mahomes,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to have some issues down the road. But obviously, can't move off the game without mentioning Kenneth Walker's big injury, especially
Yep.
because it was on my fantasy football team. Um,
Oof. We'll
one
get into
game,
fantasy talk later.
yeah, one game that as you said, you didn't learn much in this game about either team. We learned a lot, I feel like, from Dolphins at 49ers. Tua wasn't really up for
Yep.
the task. He wasn't up
Yeah.
for the challenge. He looked uncomfortable. He looked shaky. The
Mm-hmm.
49ers defense is really tough, and he just started throwing interceptions. His
Yep.
balls weren't really placed well. Um, and this is a game that once Jimmy GQ got hurt,
Yeah.
I thought, hey, this is great for the Dolphins. I don't hope for anyone's injury, but I'm like, if you're a Dolphins fan, this is good news. Now you
You're
got,
like, thank God.
yeah, you're like, now you got some nobody coming in. And I don't want to hate on Jimmy, especially
Mm-hmm.
during an injury.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, I will say, I think his 49er days ended yesterday.
Oh,
And
really?
and
Oh,
if
yeah. Yeah.
and if he does take a deal with somebody, it'll be a team friendly contract. There's no mega
Mm-hmm.
contract coming his way, just because he can't stay healthy. And even though this didn't seem like his fault, it is what it is. There's a lot of wear and tear in football, and the players respond to it differently. Some can handle it, some can't.
Yep.
But it just seemed like when the backup quarterback went in, blanking on his name,
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy, it seemed like the same thing like it didn't seem like, oh, they like it didn't seem like if you
Yeah.
watched the Chiefs and Mahomes backup came in, you're like, oh, we're fucked. You know,
Yeah.
it like
Yeah.
it looked like, hey, who's out there? He looks all right. You know,
Yeah.
we can, and that's just the luxury of having CMC and Debo and Mostart, I believe.
Mostert.
Mostert,
No. Mostert's on
or
Mostert's on the Dolphins now.
Miami. I'm thinking of their other
Yeah.
running back that
Yeah.
they have coming in. But dude, it didn't seem like a big deal. And I'm not willing, and this is a question, I will give it to you now.
Mhm.
I don't think the 49ers, what they want to accomplish this year, I don't think it's over. And I've been watching ESPN and all this stuff, and everyone's like, could they win a wild card game and even maybe a playoff game with homeboy that stepped in? They're like,
Purdy.
well, Purdy, they're like, maybe. But the 49ers had Super Bowl dreams. And I don't know if I'm convinced when you have a number one defense. I learned this
Mhm.
in 2015 when Denver won the Super Bowl and Von Miller was that Super Bowl MVP, that you can win a Super Bowl with the best defense in the world, period. And I don't know, some people forget about it because it's not as fun to watch an amazing defense, but dude, that Miami Dolphins offense was probably the biggest test that a defense could have faced. And the way
Yep.
they responded to it, I mean, they totally just dominated the game. It was never really close. Tua
Mhm.
seemed like that defense was way more than he can handle. And
Mhm.
they just stomped this Dolphins with a backup quarterback. So I don't know if they're going to ride with Purdy. I know Baker Mayfield getting released by the Panthers today
Yeah.
is a hot name.
Yeah.
There's a rumors going around that said Baker asked to be released because there was interest from San Francisco. I know his wife probably doesn't want to move again. It's
I'd want to
honestly,
move to San Francisco. Fuck that.
get out of the Carolina. Well, he was bitching in the press conference about their last move, and now it's like
Um,
now they're
yeah.
moving again. But this is one of those probably where you're like, "Hey, babe, just stay here. Don't move our whole life across the country for 3 months. Let's
Yeah.
see." You
Yeah.
know.
She's probably
But
still in Cleveland.
what? Yeah, no, she's not. That's what I was saying. She was angry moving
Yeah.
because it was like a last second deal. But anyway, the Dolphins, I mean, what do you make of this? Mike McDaniel, new head coach. Are the 49ers just, I don't know. It seemed like the Dolphins should have won this game and it wasn't even close.
This was a very, very tough test for Tua and the Dolphins. They went up against a great defense, and Nick Bosa had 3 sacks. You got to credit the defense, man. They put on pressure. The Dolphins went 0 for 7 on third downs, and they still had, what is it, 300 yards, but only 20 minutes of possession. And that's what really killed them, I think, because you take the ball out
Yeah.
of Tua's hands. That's really what you have to do, and I think it's been shown in games prior that as long as Tua doesn't have the ball in his hand, they can't score. They can't throw it to Tyreek down the seam. They can't have Jalen Waddle, you know, going out for touchdown catches over the middle or whatever. They can't do
Yeah.
that. And then you got Brock Purdy, who comes in for an injured Jimmy G, um, and looks kind of how you said, looks like he's played on this offense for a year or two now. Like he was so comfortable with it. I think his stats 25 of 37, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And dude, when you are a backup quarterback and you come in a game for an injured starter, and you've got CMC, Debo Samuel, George Kittle on your offense, and this offensive line has been protecting Jimmy G, I think you almost have like a sigh of relief that you are on this team. This is like coming off the bench for the Golden State Warriors. You're like, oh man, Steph's out. Good thing I still have Clay, and good thing I still have Draymond. Like that is just a comfortable setting for you. You know
Do
what I mean?
you?
And
Or is it a lot of pressure? Because you're like,
I
if I can't perform with these weapons, they'll know I'm a fraud. Like you
Well,
would,
I mean, I think it depends on who it is, right? Like Brock Purdy looked good, looked like we said, looked like he was been operating in this offense for a while. Some guys have it, some guys don't. You know, I mean, look at Tom Brady. He came in for an injured, God, what was his name? The injured quarterback for the Patriots in 2001. He has
like
had
Drew Bledsoe.
Drew Bledsoe. He's had a 20-year career, 7 Super Bowls. Some guys just have it sometimes.
Dude,
I'm not.
what if? Oh, dude, that's
Yeah, I'm
exciting.
saying, dude, what if Brock Purdy comes in and becomes a San Francisco 49ers
Wins the
quarterback of the
Super Bowl
future?
this year.
Oh, dude,
He's
that'd be even insane. Stuff like this happens, man. Tony Romo came in for an injured Drew Bledsoe for the Cowboys
Drew
and
Bledsoe
was
just
it was Bledsoe, man. Bledsoe just like is a
yeah.
catalyst for new quarterbacks to come in.
Every time
And
he got injured, he just took off his jersey and gave it to the GM. He's like, all right.
but and that's what I'm saying, man. Like this stuff happens. It just happens. Tua, on the other hand, didn't look great. He just didn't look great, 295 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And again, the possession time is what really killed Miami. They only had a third of the time they had a possession of the ball. You got to get more than that. You got to get at least half to get Tua and that offense really going, scoring and whatnot. But I don't know, man. The 49ers look very good. A very convincing win against a very good Dolphins team. Dolphins need to go into this next week and just be like, what happened? How can we improve? And why did we get beat so badly?
Yeah, I feel like if you're a Dolphins fan, this is not the end of the world, right? If
Not
anything,
at all.
I feel like this is a moment to be grateful. Hey, it's better this happened now than in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So let's figure it out. Now we got some real film of a playoff caliber game, um, and we can work from there. This is it. This
Mm-hmm.
is if you're a winner, this is a good thing. If you're a
Yeah.
Dolphins fan, so I don't think it's the end of the world, but man, I mean, it makes for a good storyline to see what
Yeah.
this Brock Purdy is all
Oh,
about and
yeah.
what he can do.
You're telling me,
Everyone with
dude.
the Trey Lance, there's so much QB drama in Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's going. I'm just gonna put this to
That
bed.
that adds another element to it, though.
What
I
do you?
think he does go to San Francisco.
No, you don't.
Yeah. And here's the
I
thing. Why wouldn't you get look, obviously he struggled in his time in Carolina, but you just brought in CMC, right? To just basically just mesh into your offense. Now obviously CMC is a player that is so good shouldn't even be compared to Baker, right? In terms of like their success at
not
their
at all.
position.
But they're
But
from Carolina together.
hey, let's bring in another Carolina guy. Why not, right?
I mean,
Dude,
there might be some chemistry there.
you
I haven't
have
heard anyone talk about that.
Trey Lance is done for the year. Jimmy G is done for the year. Who else are you going to have? Are you going to pick up some nobody
Purdy.
from the practice squad, or are you going to pick up Baker Mayfield to be the backup?
Well, the real question is this, right? They're probably gonna look at the film and be like, if Purdy looked like what Baker Mayfield would look like out there, they're not going to go through the hassle of bringing in a
No,
player.
I, I'm saying bring in Baker Mayfield as a backup to Purdy, not have him as the
Oh,
starter. Yeah.
totally different conversation. I could see them
Yes.
doing that,
Yes.
but even so, I
Do you
mean,
want to bring in that
they
baggage, right?
yeah, you do. It is
Yeah.
something, but you also need a backup, right? Because if there's anybody that has the
Yep.
bad quarterback luck right now, obviously it's the 49ers who went into the season going, hey, at least we have Jimmy G as our backup in case something happens. And now here they are.
Yeah.
And I just trust Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch to get the job done. Whatever it takes, man.
Yeah.
They're going to be
A,
competitive.
a first round draft pick as a backup. There's a lot of talent there, man. Whether you are a fan of Baker or not, and even though he hasn't shown any signs of life at all this past year, you still want to bring someone like him as a backup to that guy. So,
No, totally. And their next two games coming against the Bucks, who are desperate for a
mhm,
win, and then
mhm.
Seattle again. So we're gonna learn a lot about this team in the next 2 weeks.
Oh
But
yeah,
we'll move up to, I believe, your game of the week. If it wasn't, I think it was everyone's game of the week. I'm pretty sure.
oh yeah,
You said you took the over. This was your over of the week.
it was.
Thought it would be a high scoring game. I
Yeah.
didn't mention that when Buffalo and the Chiefs played, sometimes
Mhm.
it just for some reason it's like math, a negative and a negative equal a positive, and
Yep.
sometimes two of the best offenses try to do a little too much, and whatever the case may be, Joe Burrow owns
Mhm.
Patrick Mahomes, yes or no?
He
3-0.
does. He does. That's 3 games in a row that the Bengals have won over the Chiefs, and it's it's crazy. It's crazy. And Kansas City came back. They took a 24-17 lead into the fourth quarter.
Or Cincinnati came back.
Or I'm sorry, Cincinnati came back, yeah, from a 24-17 lead that the Chiefs had. And Burrow just, Samaje Perine, Jamar Chase, dude, he caught seven balls for 97 yards. T. Higgins, game sealing first down. Finally, like, dude, this game was good, but I'm kind of sad it just didn't go to the over. It just sucks.
Yeah. A part of me is like still not on the bandwagon of the Joe Burrow, and I know he's done it 3 times, but I mean, what about the eyeball test? Do we just ignore that? Because if you look at the game altering play, they call them gap plays, and usually regular people call it the turning point of the game.
Yeah.
It was when Travis Kelce fumbled his first fumble of the year.
They were up 4. They could
Yeah.
have really put them away. Yeah.
That could have been the nail in the coffin. I don't think it had anything to do with Patrick Mahomes. Like, Bengals fans will say 3-0, 3-0, but if they could in some way have Patrick Mahomes as their starting quarterback, nobody would miss Joe Burrow. So like,
No.
I don't think that Joe Burrow is on Mahomes' level. However, he does seem to own them. I don't know if it's a matchup thing, but it just has the feeling that that's not the last time you're going to see this game. Like, you're going to see it again unless the Bills take care of it first.
Yeah. And I love these little rivalries that are starting to come up because, we talk about like, oh, Brady versus Manning, Brady versus this quarterback, Drew Brees. It's only been 3 games between these two teams, but this is how this stuff starts. 3-0. Burrow's 3-0 against the Chiefs. Historically, he's great, right? Against the Chiefs, or historically he's winning against the Chiefs. Let's say that. But you never know, man. Like, this is Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. You got Josh Allen on the other side. You got up and coming quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like, this is when these little rivalries start to like, be created. And I love it. Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, all these other, it's great. And I love it. And again, Chiefs fans are going to be like, it's only been 3 games, but again, that's how this stuff starts. And I love it.
You can only win the amount of games that you play, right?
Exactly.
No, you're totally right. I would go Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, number 1. And then right behind that, you got Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. So Mahomes being in both of them. That was kind of how the Manning Brady thing was. Like, Brady had his rivals that were, like you said, like the Drew Brees.
Eli Manning.
Eli Manning, yeah. So this is totally like, you're so right. This is like the future of the rivals. And who knows, the playoffs is probably going to spark the next one, Jalen Hurts versus take your pick, right? So we'll see, but totally we're definitely creating some stuff right now that's going to be alive for the next decade. I agree with that. We got a couple more. This was the Chargers at Raiders.
This is insane.
This is a game you just didn't even know what to do with when you saw it, and now we're supposed to be talking about it, and we still don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Can I just hand this game to you?
Yeah. This is basically like how AJ Brown had that game against the the Titans. Devontae Adams just absolutely killed the Chargers. Caught 8 passes, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. Asante Samuel Jr., who is like a very good corner, was just getting cooked, dude. And it's Devontae Adams.
He's old, right? Asante Samuel sounds like he's been around for like
Junior.
20 years.
It's his kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. Junior.
Like,
Asante Samuel. Yeah, Samuel Senior has been gone. He's gone from the league.
Okay.
But again, this is Devontae Adams. I just there's nothing much you can say about Devontae Adams when he goes off for games like this, and you're Derek Carr. You're like, thank God we got him in the offseason. Why haven't we just been doing this before, right? But you got to give some sort of credit to the Chargers. Bryce Callahan for the Chargers, cornerback, had a pick 6, gave LA the lead, and he found himself, up against Adams. But I mean, again, what Adams just had his way with the Chargers defense. And the offensive line for the Chargers wasn't great, right? Herbert was just under pressure from the Raiders. And this is a team, the Raiders aren't great at sacks. They're 31st in sack percentage. Going into Sunday's game, they're 31st. Like they're not good at all. Like this Raiders team is, well, now they're 5-7, but they were really bad early in the season for a reason, right? But had Max Crosby. Max Crosby is still very much a force. Chandler Jones came from or is it Arizona? And they did pretty well in this game. But at the end of the day, right? Like you got the Raiders coming out. They won 27-20. The Chargers just seem to be that team of destiny on the wrong side where they just keep losing these games. They just can't catch a break. And that to me has been the Chargers for the last 2 decades.
Yeah,
Phillip Rivers, doesn't matter who you put behind center, they're going to lose games like this.
I work with a huge Chargers fan, and he was telling me at work, I think it was like week 4, and he's like, "No, we're done." And then I saw him yesterday, right? And I was like, "Hey, Chargers are like in the playoff hunt, so like, what's your deal, man?" And he was like, "Oh, it's all flukes." He's like, "We average like 2.3 yards a carry. We what's it? Herbert broke his rib, so he can't throw the ball downfield, and we have the most players on injured reserve in the NFL." So, the Chargers have gotten very lucky that their record is where it is at this point. And I expect them to start losing a good amount of games. And I actually only got one player from the AFC West going out, and that's the Chiefs. One team.
Yeah.
So not really surprised here. This is just bad football, man.
It really is. I feel bad for the Chargers. Our boy Race, I feel bad for him too, just because he's been a Chargers fan.
Especially the expectations of this division going in. Take us into our next game real quick.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Just the expectations of the Chargers have been rough, but yeah, like Kyle said, let's head into the next game. And this was Sunday Night Football. Just a big stage for the Cowboys to pretty much say we're the best team. Well, maybe not the best team. We're one of the best teams in the NFC, and we're gonna kill the teams that we're supposed to kill. That's exactly what happened, dude. They absolutely destroyed the Colts 54-19.
Oh my god.
Did
you watch that?
Yeah, dude, I was watching it. I was honestly like I don't want to say it was a close game, but the score definitely got worse in the second half. Like just
obliterated.
Bad. Just obliterated.
It was Colts, a 6-point game at halftime.
They got beat by 35. They got beat by 30. They ended the game by being beat by 35 points.
The Cowboys had nobody in, and they still broke. The rookie broke one off. It was his first game, and he like broke one off for like a 45-yard run. It was like, and then you looked at their defense, and who's the guy from New England that is a cornerback now in the Colts?
McCourty?
No, it was Steven something Gilmore.
Stephon Gilmore, yeah.
Yeah, and he like I saw him on the field and like just didn't make the play, and I was like, what is going on? Like this is all backups versus the Colts still have starters, and they're I don't know. Sometimes when it rains, it pours. This is literally the kind of game where that metaphor is created from.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's so much fun to watch because when the games are going like that, they're exciting because you're like, is this going to be a touchdown? Is this play going to be a touchdown? And it's sometimes it's just too much, confidence wise to shake it off. If you're Colts, they're not going to come back in games. The Colts are going to keep games close and hopefully have the ball last. But asking Matt Ryan, and I do think they should be going with him as quarterback, but asking him to come back in a game, it's not going to happen. And this Dallas team, man.
Yeah.
What did the kids say? Sheesh. Yeah, that's this Cowboys team, dude. They are looking like a Super Bowl team right now. I want Jerry Jones to get one before he dies. I'm just gonna say that.
He's gonna get one, and then he's gonna die immediately as soon as he gets his hands on that Lombardi trophy. That's what's
I
gonna
hope
happen. That
so.
man's old.
He said in a
um,
press conference in the offseason, he was like, I'm getting old. And he didn't say that he wants to get one before he dies, but he was alluding to that. And I
yeah,
just felt kind of bad. I was like, could you imagine like being like close to death? I respect that as
yeah.
it's a,
He knows it.
that's some real shit to own
Oh
up
yeah.
to, and he just wants one more before, like, man, you're about to die, and the one thing you want
hmm
to happen in your life before it really is all over is you want to see one more Super Bowl. I can respect the hell out of that.
Yep. And this just makes it even better. This game made it even better for the Cowboys to get OBJ. You
Yes.
got Gallup, you got
Yes.
CD Lamb, you've got Schultz there at tight end, you've got Pollard, you've got Ezekiel Elliott, you've got Dak Prescott. I can see why he'd want to go back to the Giants, but why wouldn't you want to try to win another Super Bowl with the Dallas
Oh, he's
Cowboys?
going. He's going.
He
He's
has to
going.
go with the Dallas Cowboys. This just makes it
100%.
just makes it an even sweeter deal for him. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I don't really see him going anywhere else in this.
Kansas City.
Oh, okay, yeah, I could see that. Even maybe the Bills, but I don't know if the Bills want that.
He's not
I don't
going to
know.
Bills.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah,
Oh,
that
but
was. Go
real
ahead.
quick on the OBJ news, since we're keeping our fans up to date, he did say he doesn't want a 1-year deal. It has to be 2.
Okay,
So that's something to consider. I mean,
that
you're
is.
in.
I would still want him on the Cowboys if I were a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, I
One
feel
hundred
like he'll
percent.
be a Cowboy by next week. That's
Yeah,
my gut.
you get a guy like OBJ, your team just automatically becomes better. He's a Super Bowl champ. So
And the Cowboys are the most fun to watch too. And OBJ is
they
all
are.
about the show. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. They just
So,
that atmosphere I think is really good to be in right now.
yeah,
Um,
good
so we'll
vibes.
we'll see. Yeah, very good vibes. So we'll finish it off with our Monday Night Football game, and what a Monday Night Football game it was! Vintage Tom Brady. The Bucks end up winning 17-16 in a game that they trailed, or I'm sorry, in a game that they only had they scored only 3 points in until 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Tom Brady
This
time.
yeah, Tom Brady time, man. And this is where the Saints screwed it up. So Tom Brady gets the ball with like 6 minutes left, drives downfield. They're down 16-3. At 3 minutes and 3 seconds, they score their touchdown. So now it's 16-10, right? They get the PAT, whatever. Kick it off to the Saints. They still have all 3 of their timeouts. The Saints take 25 seconds off the clock. That's it. That is it.
Well, they're
They've
try to stay aggressive, like you said. Don't you want to
exactly.
stomp their head into the ground, and that's what you risk.
Exactly. And look, Andy Dalton got his team to 16 points. Whether or not you won't it's a backup quarterback who is starting for this team that is getting his team to 16 points. He took 25 seconds off the clock, 2.5 minutes left for Tom Brady. He gets down the field with 20 seconds left. He throws a dime to Godwin in the back of the end zone. Touchdown. But there's a flag, gets called back. There's holding. So now they're at the 20. So now it's even worse. And there's like 15 seconds left. Brady throws one to the sidelines. I forget to who. Goes out of bounds, gets closer to the end zone, throws a touchdown to Rashad White, I believe his name is. Kick the
Yeah.
PAT. Tom Brady and the Bucks win. They go for the kickoff. They try some like lateral stuff, but they don't get anywhere. The Tampa Bay Bucks won 17-16 in the last 3 minutes of the game. Yep. What play is this? Oh, this is the drive?
Yeah, this is every play from his last drive. So,
yeah. I mean, and he's going downfield, man. Like he is doing what Tom Brady does. And I think he was tied before the end of this. Before he was at the end of this drive, he was tied with Peyton Manning with 40-something fourth quarter or overtime touchdown drives. He now surpasses Peyton Manning for that.
Wow,
because of this.
It's surprising how long Brady had to play to catch up to Manning. But
yeah,
it's like I don't really take stats like that too much because it's like, well, what if you were just winning the whole game? You wouldn't need to come back.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
That's true.
like,
And I mean, 7 rings to 1. I think we know who the winner is really at the
yeah,
end of the
I
day,
think
right?
Fitzpatrick's on that list too. It's like, well, yeah, you're always losing.
It's like, damn, he's good.
So I mean, Tampa, you still trust Tom Brady, right? Out of everybody in that division to come out of that
Yes.
division, even
Yes.
though they got a tough game coming up next week. Well, they're going on a bye week and then they're playing the Packers, I believe.
I think so. Yeah, because if they're because the Packers are on a bye next week, and the
No.
Bucks
I
have
meant
already had their
after the
bye.
bye. Oh, have the Bucks had their bye already?
Bucks have had their bye. Yeah.
Okay. Forget that. Let me just pull it up really quick since we have the internet now. Um, the Bucks are playing the Bengals on week 15, and next week they're going to be playing. Bucks are playing. Ooh, the 49ers. That's what I was thinking of because I was talking
Oh,
about Purdy's next game. Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of crunch time, right? You got
Yep.
Bengals and you got 49ers, and those are two games that are going to be extremely tough to win. But I think maybe this game kind of gives a boost. I really don't believe in the something just seems different. I don't know if it's like Gazelle or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I know we got this win, but how many times this year has it felt like that's what it took to win? Do you get what I'm saying? It's like it always feels like for Tom Brady to get a win, like it had to take everything
And they've
and a little
struggled
miracle.
heavily this year.
Yeah, and I just don't
I
really like trust that formula like long term. So I
yeah.
don't know. I asked you that because I'm not sure who I have winning this division yet. And I
Uh between them, the Saints, the who else? The
what are they?
Panthers and the Jaguars. I think I got
No, not the Jaguars. It's just the Falcons, the
I'm
Panthers,
sorry, yeah. Why do I always mess up the South? The Falcons, yeah.
or no, the
I
South is the Texans, the Titans, the Jags, and the Colts.
Yeah, but I'm thinking NFC South with the Bucks.
Oh, got you,
Yeah,
got you.
yeah. And that's what I mean. The Falcons, the Panthers, them and the Saints. I have the Tampa Bay Bucks, man.
They got a 2-game lead.
There you go. I can't see Falcons coming back, especially with the way Mariota's played. The Bucks, sure. They've got some questions, and Brady seems to have to really Brady either wins them the games or actually loses them the game. So it really is all dependent on Brady. But I have the Bucks at the end of it. I think I have the
And
Bucks.
yeah,
It's
the
Tom Brady.
Falcons are behind by 1 game.
Yeah,
Dude, what wouldn't you give your left nut to be in this division right now?
I would 100% love for the Bears to be in the NFC South right now. I would
If you
love
just
for
still have those playoff hopes back,
Yeah, yeah.
would
It
be
must
so
be nice.
amazing.
It
All right.
must be nice.
That's our breakdown
Yep,
for
that was our
week
recap.
13.
And let's go over our record. So we're actually great overall. We are 69, nice, and 33 overall on our record. And this is not counting any of the games that we did for I'm Rich Bitch. So this is so 69 and 33 overall. Kyle, you have an edge over me. You're 29 and 26. Well, I'm 26 and 29 individuals. I was creeping, but I picked the Chargers and then I picked the Bears. I had to pick with my heart. I know what I got. I know who I am. But that was our week 13 recap.
So I got a 1-game lead on this week.
No, you got like a 3-game lead right now. You're 29 and 26, and I'm 26 and 29.
Oh, this is when just like the division. This is when the good starts pulling away.
But for who? For me or for you?
No, unless I shit the bed next week and then you're back in it.
Let's all hope for me. All right. So that was our week 13 recap, along with our record. And if you guys are joining us here on the live stream, welcome to Only Football, brought to you by Star 6 Media. You guys got any comments? Let us know in the comments what you guys disagree, agree, or want to kill Kyle. Let's move on to our. Oh, actually, yeah, I've got the song. I keep forgetting I got the song for this. Ready, Kyle? You ready?
Ready.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
Let's move on to our top five. I think last week we had a bit of a I think I had the biggest change, or maybe you did. I forget.
I did.
But
I did.
you did. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So now let's go over our top five. I don't think mine has changed too much, although there's been some shuffling. So let's start off at our number 5. Kyle, I'll go first. I've got the San Francisco 49ers at number 5, taking the Dolphins out of my top 5. And the 49ers are just too good, man. They are so good. You bring in a backup and you still beat the Dolphins with that backup, and he has a good game. They're good. They're good. So I got him at number 5.
Before I say my number 1, and I'm going to tell you my 5 now. I don't want you to think, no, tell me your 5.
No, tell me 5.
I am going to ask you a question before I do my 1. Number 5, and you're totally right. Dolphins, get the boot. You can't lose like that against good teams.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo's back. Buffalo's back.
Oh, you got the Bills at 5.
They took care of business on Thursday night.
Okay.
Whatever. They had a hangover. They won a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're not our best selves all the time. I still trust this team. You're saying earlier, if you had that Denver defense on the Bills offense, you'd be a Super Bowl favorite. Well, the Bills have like the number 2 defense.
Yeah.
So they are a Super Bowl favorite. But like you said, week to week, I'm going to pace myself. Bills at 5.
All right. Moving on to number 4. Kyle, who do you have?
Cincinnati.
Oh, you've got the Bengals creeping in at number 4.
Yeah,
like
this seems oddly familiar, and this is what I expected. And I said it here, and I'm so glad, because this is kind of that time of year where Cincinnati, Joe Burrow is a proven winner. All that guy does is win, and they start off okay, yeah. With the fact that he was in the Super Bowl with that offensive line should tell you he's a winner. But anyway, before he said that asinine comment, I will say though, Joe Burrow is a winner. It's in his DNA. He has that thing that you can't point out. You can't see it on video, but all you know is that when he's on the field, you have a chance. And I know what that's like. It's been a long time, but that is kind of something you can't put a price tag on. And I think Joe Burrow is getting into December form. And last time we saw him do this, he went on to beat Kansas City and the number 1 seed Tennessee. So they make their appearance in my top 5 at number 4.
I respect it, but I don't love it. I will say that. I respect it. But
you don't love it.
I don't love it. My number 4, and you might actually not like this because I think you have them a little higher. Probably number 1. I've got the Cowboys at number 4. He's leaving. That's like the 6th time.
Guys, follow me at Football Only Podcast.
Look,
it's been real.
We talked about the Cowboys, how they're doing this year, how they are an offensive juggernaut. They're beating the dog shit out of these teams.
4.
This is a Cowboys team that is just historically not built to win. They never win.
Wow.
They never win.
That's your argument? That's your argument?
Historically, they never win the Super Bowl. So
okay, boomer.
If today you told me who's going to win the Super Bowl on your top 5, or who's not going to win your Super Bowl on your top 5,
no, we're not doing it that way.
Your first
you
one
told me we're not doing Cowboys. It that way. No, who's the best right now, week 13?
Right.
If we're doing that, I'll go Buffalo number 1 because that's my Super Bowl team.
Right. But if you told me today, that's what I'm saying. If you told me today who's not winning the Super Bowl, I'd probably say Cowboys just because of bad luck in the past.
Over Cincinnati?
Well, I don't have them in my top 5. Yeah.
I forgot.
So I'm going Cowboys. I'm going Cowboys number 4.
That's so low. That is so low. What do they have to do, man? They put up like 58 points.
We'll see. I was like, when I was writing this, I was like, oh man, they might be low, but I was like, that's where I have them. That's where
you got to be true to yourself. You got to be.
Yeah, you got to be true to yourself. And I'm I'm being true to myself here with number 3. I've got the Chiefs, even though they lost to the Bengals. I've got them at number 3 still. It was a bad game. Kelsey fumbled. Patrick Mahomes did his all. He outstretched for a touchdown.
I love that.
He still looked good, man. I love the Chiefs, and they're consistently always dominant. And again, if you told me today who's one of your top teams, it's still the Chiefs for me, just because of their consistency.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea, is that you can't get emotional when you're deciding who's the best teams right now.
Yeah.
The idea is that if you had to reach in your pocket and grab one of your top 5s,
Mhm.
you could feel confident if they played one of my top 5s. And I
Mhm.
don't feel that the Chiefs lost any credibility, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they play a perfect game, they probably win. Let's be real. And they were on the road.
Yeah.
I think they've won like 7 in a row going into that game, something ridiculous like
Yeah.
that. So I mean, yeah,
Bengals are just better that day.
they were just better that day. If they
Yeah.
played again tomorrow, I would pick the Chiefs. I agree
Yeah.
with you. I got Chiefs at 3.
All right. Chiefs at 3. All right. Let's move on to number 2. Kyle, who do you have at number 2?
You know who I got at 2.
Is it the Cowboys?
Yeah.
I like it. I like the Cowboys pick. We've talked about them already. 54-19. They destroyed the Colts. You're beating the teams you're supposed to beat. Simple as that. If they get OBJ, they're just going to get better. So my number 2 is the Bills, coming off that Thursday night football win where they just absolutely
This guy's all over the place.
dominated the
All over the place.
Patriots.
Can I
Absolutely
get
dominated.
Can I get a level-headed reporter to come in here? Like,
No.
I know we're not
No.
ESPN, but I might need some just to balance this out. Wait, so you had Buffalo. I just
Yeah.
want to clear this up for the fans. You had Buffalo out of your
Mhm.
top 5 last week. Now they jumped to 2.
No, I didn't have
Do
him
you
out.
have him at 5?
You had him out. I had him at 4.
You had him at 4. So they
Yeah.
make a 2 jump, two
spot
team
jump.
by
Yep.
beating the Patriots.
Yes.
Okay. You know what? I will
True to
respect
yourself.
it.
True to yourself.
You know what? I do respect it, because I told you, I was like, the Patriots on paper had a really good shot in that game, to give them a real good shot. Like, that was a boxing match. It would have been, you would have thought, oh, it's going to be close. It wasn't, though.
No, it wasn't.
I agree with that. Number 1, I guess we have the same number 1. The
It's the
Philadelphia
Eagles.
Eagles.
Yep.
And I told you Jalen Hurts is the MVP. And I want to hear you say it in front of everybody right now. Who's the MVP?
He's not the MVP.
You still got Patty?
I still got Patty Mahomes, baby. I still got
Patrick
Mahomes.
That's so 2017.
And he's still kept the same energy since 2017, dude. He's too good.
Facts.
He's
Consistency should be rewarded, but Jalen Hurts has turned an entire franchise around. He's the most valuable player in the NFL right now.
And I won't be surprised if and when he wins it, that Jalen Hurts wins it. Nobody likes consistent success. People hated the Patriots when they were winning all the Super Bowls. You think people are going to love Patrick Mahomes for winning constant MVPs? You think they're going to be like, oh my God, Patrick Mahomes, yes, you totally deserve that. Absolutely not. They want to see Jalen Hurts win the MVP. They want to see one of Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, one of these new quarterbacks win an MVP next year. This is what Jalen Hurts is, to these new crop of quarterbacks. He's showing y'all, everyone, that hey,
he's so good.
You can turn a franchise around, right? Like you're saying, he's probably going to win the MVP. But if I were picking, I would stick with Patrick Mahomes. It's just consistent success,
and that's fair, because when it's all said and done, Hurts isn't going to win unanimously MVP. There's going to be votes for Patrick Mahomes, and that's the only number 2. I will say, though, Joe Burrow with that win at Joe Burrow, he has moved himself into the MVP conversation, and I truly believe that. And if you look at the offensive line he played with, starting off, I think he was 0-3, right? His first 3 games, 0-3.
Yeah, something like that.
And then what a comeback. I mean, everybody loves a good comeback story. So Joe Burrow's going to get in the conversation. He just won't be a finalist. He's not going to be like a serious candidate. It's either Mahomes or it's Hurts.
Yeah.
And I feel like you got to go with Hurts just based on, well, first off, he's got a better record,
Hmm.
right? The Chiefs have
Yeah.
lost 3 games now to
Yep. The Eagles
Hurts.
are, let
10
me
and
double
oh
check,
no, they're
11 and
11
1.
and 1. And the one question I said I wanted to ask you before I said my number 1 is, are you allowed to have a bad day at the office? And if you say yes, well, the Commanders game, we'll call it a bad day at the office. But even so, if you actually watch that game,
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts didn't have a bad day at the office. The
Mm,
the other guys did. There was
yeah.
like 3 fumbles on wide open targets. This Philly team should still be undefeated. And I feel like if they were, there might be a part of you that would side with Hurts as an MVP.
There
If
were
they,
mistakes made on both sides of the ball that game.
but not by Hurts.
No. I'm saying just like both sides of the ball. Probably, yeah, probably not Hurts. I don't remember. I didn't really see that game too much. I didn't really pay attention too much on Hurts. I think he had like a touchdown or a passing touchdown, something like that. So he did his job.
It was a
But
bad
there was,
day though.
I think it was a bad day for the Eagles. Um, but you're asking me, can you have a bad day as a possible NFL MVP?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You, I, an NFL MVP, if there weren't bad days allowed for NFL MVPs, the only NFL MVPs would be Tom Brady, who went undefeated in a season, and whoever was the quarterback or whoever was the most valuable player for the 1970 something Dolphins when they went undefeated.
Dan
You can
Marino.
was it Dan Marino? Dan Marino. You can have bad days. It's what you do after those bad days. It's how you perform during those bad days, really, because it's not all on you. You're going to be the MVP of the team, but it's a team game
Yeah.
at the end of it. So
But that's why I
you
asked
can have
you.
bad
I
days.
tricked you because how did Hertz respond from his loss, right? That was kind of the final test in my head that
Yeah.
I needed to see before I awarded him it. Even though we're only in week 14, to see the way he bounced back, and I watched that Packers game. I mean, he's just a freak athlete, and you think about the adversity he went through at Alabama with Tua
Yeah.
coming in the second half and winning
Mhm.
the national championship. It could have been the downfall of his career. What does this tell you about a guy? He can handle adversity. I mean,
Yeah.
that moment in Alabama at halftime in the national championship is enough to destroy a man's career. And now he's in the MVP conversation in the NFL. It's just, I don't
It's a
know.
great story. It's a
Yeah,
great story.
it would be a great documentary, honestly, if they started there.
Absolutely. You didn't trick me. Shut up. You
I
didn't trick
tricked
me.
you.
You literally didn't trick me. I still have Patrick Mahomes just because of his consistent success. He's had bad days. He's 9-3. He's won one Super Bowl.
That wasn't Mahomes' fault. That was Kelsey's fault. He fumbled.
What
No,
I'm saying is
Mahomes is
like
a great. If Jalen Hurts somehow couldn't be up for the award, I would say unanimously it would go to Mahomes.
yeah, because I mean Josh Allen has just been not himself, and it's just
He's
I
injured.
don't know. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay. That was our top five. Hopefully you guys agree, but you guys probably agree with me more,
I was just
obviously.
gonna say, let Rick know why you don't.
Let's finish this show off with some fantasy talk. Kyle, I don't think did either of us do well this
No,
I don't think this week because I definitely
no, I I didn't do well. And the ironic twist is all the shit I talked about Deshaun Watson having a terrible first week. I
yeah.
started him at quarterback. He got me a whopping 5.3
Oh my
points.
god.
And then Alvin Kamara got me 5 points. Um, honestly, I was still in the game. If Kamara would have had another 40 burger like he had
Hmm.
against the Raiders, I could have
Hmm.
won this week, but Kamara 5 points. And then Kenneth Walker, my flex, who
Hmm.
is a starting running back in the NFL. He is very good. He got injured in the first quarter, and it was just
Oof.
kind of a doozy. I mean, it was just
Oof.
even Ramondre Stevenson, who's been super solid, had his
13 points.
he had his worst week since playing the Packers week 4. So
Yeah.
this was just, this there's a little luck in fantasy. If
Oh yeah.
I had to redo it all, this is the right roster to start. But it just didn't work out.
I think so. So I think my mistake, and it didn't really amount to anything. And I wouldn't even really call it a mistake. I have both Josh Allen and Fields on my team. Fields, I didn't know whether he was going to be good to go. They were he was kind of questionable, so I was like, well, let me put in Josh Allen for Thursday night. Got me almost 17 points. Okay, cool. Running backs, Najee Harris, Nick Chubb. Najee got me 10. Okay, acceptable. Nick Chubb got me 8 points. A guy who consistently gets me like 15 plus gets me 8 points in such a terrible game, in a game where they should have been running the ball a lot more, but they also couldn't really get the running game going. Whatever. Stephon Diggs did his thing, 22 points, 7 receptions, 92 yards, a touchdown. Chris Olave just,
Do you see the drop? You see the drop?
Did he drop it?
There was a 40-yard third down. It was like 3rd and 7, and it was going into the second half, and it literally hit his hands and it like bounced up, and then he tried to recatch it, but he was out of bounds. Do you know that was his first drop of the year?
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Out of like 89 targets.
That's insane. Wow. Well, I mean, he didn't catch a touchdown, so that sucked. 10 and a half points.
It was 40. It was like 40 yards. It probably wouldn't have been a touchdown, but who knows?
No, yeah, but that's 5 points right there. You know what I mean? Like,
and the drive continues, so maybe
so you never know. Freiermuth got me 10 and a half points. Good enough for a tight end. My tight ends have just been trashed this entire year. Michael Pittman Jr., 3.5 points. I mean, what should I expect on a guy who's on the Colts, right? The Buffalo defense got me 6 points. They let up 10 points against New England, so I guess that's why I got 6 points. And then Evan McPherson kicks for 10 points. I had Justin Fields who got me 19, so that really wouldn't have helped. I had Brian Robinson who had me 13 on the bench. Wouldn't have really helped. And the rest of my bench is kind of trash, honestly. Outside of my starting lineup, my team is pretty bad.
I was thinking that when I looked at it. I was like, dude, Natalie's a real one for not destroying your entire life.
I know.
He's
Thank
like,
God.
baby, this is a money league. And if we win, I will take you out.
Just some rules. Just some rules real quick before you pick my lineup. She luckily kept a lot of the same guys. She looked at a lot of their scores. Fortunately, I wasn't able to get a video of it. But still funny. Still never making that bet again.
And I have a loaded team on my bench. I mean, I had Ezekiel Elliott, who I had to sit, because I was like, well, I'm going to go with Kamara, Stevenson, and Kenneth Walker. And you're like, well, why have a running back as your flex? And it's like, well, my 2 receivers are Devontae Adams and CeeDee Lamb. You know, even if I went with the 3rd wide receiver, the best guy I could do is Mike Evans. And I was like, no, Lattimore's going to lock him down. But honestly, and I know this sounds ridiculous as a person missing the playoffs, I think I have the best team in our league if you just go from top to bottom. This team is nasty, and there's so much depth.
Outside of Watson,
outside of Watson.
Outside of Watson and maybe, I don't know who this Everett guy is for tight ends, but I mean.
He's a top 10 tight end.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's number 9.
Oh, yeah, he's 9, yeah.
And I have Dulcich on my bench, and this will conclude my fantasy talk, unless you have anything. There was a guy that posted on Twitter, which, as you guys know, I'm getting really good at it. I just got followed by the Denver Broncos Daily. It's kind of a big deal.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're watching our podcast. It's cool.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, so anyway, this guy, he commented, I saw Cortland Sutton was trending, and I was like, why? I was like, oh, he got hurt. But as I was in there, I see this tweet. Another week of trusting Cortland Sutton to go off, and yet another week of disappointment. So I retweeted with a quote, and I'll share it with you. I said, if you don't know by week 13 Sutton ain't going off, you need a new fantasy manager. Nobody's going off. This is the worst offense in the NFL. Greg Dulcich has as many touchdowns as Sutton, and he made his first start late October. I have Dulcich on my fantasy roster. You know where he is? On my bench.
Oh, my God. That's great. That's great. Oh, my God. We are The Broncos are so bad.
I know, and he still got 13.5 points. I should have started him.
You really should
Another
have.
little twist to it.
I think I'm still in the hunt. If not, I'm still in the playoff picture right now as like a 6
This was
seed.
like my nail. I'm pretty sure I'm out.
Yeah, I think you're done.
Yeah, you
I
can't
think
start 0-5 and try to.
Yeah, you did well though. You definitely tried to claw back in, which I respect. You made some moves. I liked it. But is what it is. Let us know what your fantasy is like, and if you guys are making the same mistakes we are, having a terrible bench and just literally relying on your starters and the waiver.
Hopefully you're not trusting Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, hopefully you're not trusting Cortland Sutton in week 13. But that's all from us here at Only Football. You can follow us at Star6 Media on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Facebook. And you can follow us on Twitter at _Star6 Media. Kyle, where can they follow you on Twitter so they can see your hilarious quote tweets about Cortland Sutton?
You can find me at FTBL Only Podcast. And yeah, please give me a follow. I'll follow you back. I'm getting pretty solid at it. I feel like
He's trending.
Yeah, if it weren't for the character limit, the character limit has saved so much of my life.
This is that you joined Twitter when they doubled their character limit. It used to only be 140 characters. Before.
I have noticed that. Okay,
yeah,
I thought it was crazy.
Yeah,
I was like typing, and I'm like, how come I'm not being informed that I'm out? You know, I was like, how long can I go?
Yeah, you're like, I'm just gonna keep pressing A. See when it goes. You guys can follow me on Twitter at @andnowrick. I'm posting updates on there, and on Instagram, I'm just posting my reaction to Bears games, so that's great. You can see me just cry every week. And yeah, awesome. That's kind of what we're doing. I'm just crying. But yeah, other than that, Kyle, you got anything else for the people before we head out of here?
Nope, that's all I got. Obviously, next episode's going to be on Thursday, where we're going to talk about a lot of important games with playoff implications on the line, so you don't want to miss that.
All right. Stay tuned for that episode. And yeah, Kyle, always a pleasure, man. See ya.
Yep. See ya.